Hello, everyone, and welcome into Eastern Kentucky University's weekly Zoom press conference. We're joined as always by head football coach Walt Wells. And today, from the players, we are joined by offensive lineman Liam Coppinger and linebacker Cam Jr. We'll start with coach's opening statements about last week's game and this upcoming game, and then we'll open the floor to questions. If you have a question for Coach, as always, just please message me in the chat. We'll make sure you get your questions asked. Coach, with that, please take it away.
Yeah, obviously disappointed in our overall performance as a team, both players and coaches, and myself and everybody involved in that Marshall game. Thought Marshall came out and prepared well and did some good things. But we also gave them plenty of opportunities with the first, I think it's 4 or 5 drives starting at the plus 30 something there. It's hard for your defense to go out there and maintain a level that they were playing at early on. And then offensively, we have to continue to strive to get better and get things better and be more productive. And the goal is to get first downs, but also to get points. So we have to do a better job of that in our preparation and practice, which will bleed over into the games, and just continue to get these young men experience. But it's one that we've got to flush behind us, and we have yesterday in all our meetings and everything that we did yesterday. And today, we look forward to the challenge of West Georgia, a team that is currently ranked, I think, 22nd, 21st, somewhere right in that area. Coach Taylor's done an outstanding job of recruiting and getting guys in there and believing in what he's doing and playing. They beat Samford. They beat East Tennessee State and Nichols, and so who we'll see the following week, obviously. So they've had a good FCS schedule, and they're sitting at 3-0. So I know they're confident and looking forward for us to come in there, and so it'll be a great challenge for us to go on the road again and come out of there with a victory. I'll open it up.
All right, Michael Watkins.
Coach, I think everybody's going to ask you about the quarterback situation. Jordan looked okay when he came in there in the second half, but if you can just talk about that and as things progress, are we still going with Miles for this game?
Yeah, we'll make those decisions when we need to. Miles, struggled early on. I think he'll be the first one to tell you that. But Miles has put in a lot of work and done a lot of great things, and he's a good young man. He understands what we're doing. Everybody has their moments, and so we've got to evaluate the whole, not just part. Jordan did come in and do some nice things. The one score that we had, we got the ball at the 12-yard line, I think it is. So, we expect to score there. And we did, which was nice to see. And it was great for Jaden West to get his first touchdown on his birthday, a local product there from Madison Central. But, we'll evaluate and go that direction. And, we're not going to say anything right now, but our team knows. And so we'll leave it at that.
When you look at the running game the last couple of weeks, it seemed like you've been really trying to get that going, but this offensive line, like you've got a lot of guys that you're trying to move around, some newer guys up there up front for you. Just talk about that and maybe what you've seen from them that you've got to improve on before you go into this West Georgia game.
Well, we've got to improve on targeting and making sure we're going to the right people. And we hard to say, but we actually did some things that were a little better Saturday night. But when you're playing against a Division I football team, sometimes you get exposed in other things, and so we have to continue to build that continuity up front. We kept the same lineup in. We are giving some guys some breathers because we felt like there's some guys that earned some opportunities, but it's pretty much the same group in there the whole time. Nobody playing new positions, if that makes any sense. So it'll be this will be the third week in a row that we're going into that. And so we're expecting better things from our offensive line and better things from our run game. It comes from everybody, and we have to be able to do that. And so you're right. I mean, offensively, we've got a long ways to go, but and a short time to get there. And so we're going to have to make sure that we have a great week of practice, minimize what we do to make sure they have an understanding of what they do, because West Georgia's defense is is a really stout defense that does a great job. So we're going to have to be prepared and go in there and put bodies on bodies.
All right, last one for me. West Georgia, obviously, first conference game. So just talk about the importance of getting off to a good start there and what it'll mean maybe to kind of build some confidence for the team as we go down the stretch.
Well, I mean, we're in the game 4 now. Okay, so technically a fourth of the season after this week will be over. We played 2 FBS schools and then we played 1 FCS school or 1-0 in FCS play. All our goals are in front of us. And sure, our goals are to win every game, and though I don't know if it's a goal, but it's an expectation. But our goals we've gone over them, and one of them is to win a conference championship. So if you want to control the destiny of that goal, this is the first chapter of that. And we have to go down and be prepared. Understand that they're playing with a lot of confidence right now. I mean, they're 3-0. Everything's been great. Nobody's talking negative about them. And so they're going to be feeling good about themselves and coming in there ready to fight. And it's going to be a fight. And that's what we have to be ready for. And I feel like our kids will show up and go in there and do what they're supposed to do. So if we play the way we're supposed to play, then it should be a really good game. I mean, like I said, they've done a great job in a short amount of time, and we have to go down there and show who we are too.
All right, Keith Farmer, WLEX.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that, but also the fact that this team West Georgia seems to be so balanced offensively. What kind of difficulties does that pose for your team?
Well, they've got their quarterback that's been there now that I know that's been there 2 years. He may have been there a year before, but I don't think he was. And so he is, he's got another year under his belt, year with the system. Even though they changed coordinators, the O-line coach it became the coordinator. So I think everything kind of similar with tweaks. Everybody puts their own flair on it. So I think it starts through him. And he does a good job of distributing the football. They've got big athletic receivers that are twitchy coming off the line of scrimmage. So we have to be prepared for that. And then they've got a stable of backs that are really good. And, they've got guys that want to run the ball and they know how to run the ball. So we'll have to do a great job on defense of understanding what tendencies they do give us and taking advantage of that and playing extremely hard. And, our defense has really played well at times. And, obviously against Houston Christian, they played well. But, I mean, I think there's times you see it in the Louisville game and there's times you saw it in the Marshall game. Like I said, I mean, we give the ball away there on I don't even know what yard line it was, but the 20-something, the 30-something, the very first possession. And, they get a first down and then they hold them to 4 and out and stop them on a, 4th and inches. And then the next time we give them the ball at the same type position and they hold them to a field goal. So our defense understands what it takes to stop the run and play the run. We just have to be consistent and we have to give them life on offense.
All right, Connor Sturgill, Fox 56.
Coach, just kind of piggybacking off that with their run game, their top rusher, he doesn't even have a touchdown yet, but then they have a guy who's run for 4 or 5. So how are y'all kind of preparing for kind of the 2-headed and even 3-headed monster because their quarterback is fairly mobile? So how are y'all kind of preparing for what each different running back will kind of throw at y'all?
Well, we'll just, obviously within our system, we've got ways that we think will help our young men out and give them, the biggest thing you have to do with them is you have to play with clean eyes. And because if you let all the motions and shifts and things that they do to try to distract your eyes take you away from your keys and what you need to do, then they're going to get their runs. I think our defensive line's got to do a great job of like what we call build a wall and keep everything in front of them and be stout in there. And then we have to play with clean eyes at the second and third level so we can get to where we need to. And then we have to be great tacklers. And we have to tackle well, and we'll be working that this week and making sure we're wrapping up and driving for 5 is what we call it. So we'll have to do those things. They're a very talented group of people, and their ranking is deserving. And I think it speaks a lot for our conference and what we're going into. I mean, a lot of teams in our conference are either ranked in receiving votes, including ourselves. And I think that speaks high volumes for the UAC.
And then last question for me. 3 of your 4 games have been on the road, obviously 2 of those at FBS schools and not 2 great environments. And then West Georgia 3-0, they're feeling high about themselves. So how's all these early road tests really, what has it shown you about your team and what are they kind of learning about themselves as, like you said, we're about a quarter of the way through the season after this week?
Right. I think, the biggest thing it shows is that it's tough to win on the road. I mean, it's tough you have to go play well. And you can't make the mistakes you make and have a chance to win on the road. It's so hard to go into these environments. You go into Louisville, there's 70,000 people. You go in the other night, there's 30,000 people. And, it makes it communication has to be crisp and concise. It has to be loud. It has to, your hand signals or whatever you're doing has to be on point. You have to have a heightened awareness with your mind and paying attention and knowing what to do. And you can't get caught up in the environment and all the things that go on. And when we go to West Georgia, I'm sure Carrollton's a football town. I mean, they got they got all kinds of great football down there. So I'm sure there'll be a great crowd and they'll try to, bring distractions to us. We have to go down and be a part of us. And I think that's been really good for our young football team. Now, have the results been what we wanted? Not at all. But going on the road to play at Louisville and then going on the road to play at Marshall and packed stadiums against FBS programs can only build your program, in my opinion. The mental part is what we got to get over. And the 2 losses, nobody likes to lose. Everybody hates to lose, but you have to understand it does not affect the outcome of what we're trying to do right now. Other than be undefeated, and that went out the window after the first week. So we have to stay focused on what we have to do and prepare that away this week and not let Marshall beat us twice.
All right, Dick Gabriel, I saw that you had a question, Dick.
Yeah, well, playing a tough schedule like this is nothing new for you guys, obviously. And I'm wondering, going into the season, when you had a lot of new moving parts, you were trying to figure this out and figure that out. Does it make it, how much more challenging does it make it to evaluate players and scheme? Or does it, in a way, make it a little easier because the competition is so tough and you can see the way your guys respond and react?
I think, Dick, it actually goes both ways because, when you go into the first game, you have you kind of know what Louisville's got and you understand the expectations from Louisville and everything, but you don't know what, for us, we didn't know who we had at certain positions and what was going, how they were going to play. And you find out through that process, okay, this guy can do this. This guy probably needs a break, about 3 series in. This guy, this scheme is not fit this person. And you start self-scouting right away, to be honest with you, and figure out where you're at and what you and who you are and who you're going to try to be for the rest of the season. I do think it's difficult sometimes to evaluate the whole. You take the quarterback position as one. It's not always his fault, and everybody's going to say, "Well, he's the leader and he's got to do these things." And there's no question about that. But if guys aren't getting open, who's he supposed to throw it to? If he doesn't have time to throw the ball because of the protection, who does he throw it to? Just little things like that come into play. That's just one example of one position, and I'm not saying that because of what we went through Saturday night. I'm just saying that the whole affects the part, and so we have to continue to understand what we're doing and how we're trying to develop. The thing you can really watch is who's competitive, who's got play strength, who's got knowledge to pick different things up when you see different schemes and sudden schemes. Because the first 2 games, we had really no tape on either team. I mean, we had tape from last year, but you got brand new quarterback, brand new schemes. You got to figure out what to do. And so those things come into play, Dick. And I know it's a long answer, but there's a lot to playing schedule like we play. We've had some season-ending injuries, and that puts us, takes our depth away, not only at the position, but also on special teams. And it affects special teams so many ways. And so all those different things come into play, and we got to continue to combat because I mean, I understand nobody cares. We got to continue to go out there and win and play well. But those are the factors that come into play when you go and play Louisville and Marshall, this early in the season.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Not seeing any other questions for Coach. One last call. All right. Not seeing anything. Coach, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
Appreciate everybody. Y'all have a good off weekend. I mean, feel free to get in the car and drive down to Carrollton, Georgia if you want to.
All right. We'll now welcome in Liam Coppinger of the Colonel's offensive line. Watkins, are you good to start off our questions?
Hey, Liam, you look at the struggles right now of the offense. What do you think is the number one thing you guys have got to correct going into conference play?
Details. We have a lot of guys doing the right thing, and then it can be just one guy messing up a play. So just making sure we're all on the same page, we're all focusing on the details and being where we need to be.
You look at the history of this offensive line over the last, 5 or 6 years since Coach Wells has been there. There's been a lot of camaraderie. There's always been, one or two guys that you can kind of lean on. Talking about Peyton Collins or Josiah Israel. Have you talked to any of those guys about what made them so good, or what you can kind of take from them and bring to this season to kind of finish it out?
Yeah, I'd call him probably once a week. John Stone, Peyton, a lot of the old guys that used to play here, and we just kind of talk about like what worked for us in the past and like how we can incorporate that into what we're doing now, and like trying to take steps into being better.
All right, last one for me. We've seen the quarterback situation that played out on Saturday. When you look at Miles or Jordan, what do you think both of those guys can bring to the offense as you all go forward?
I think they're both great players. I'm excited to see, how it plays out, and I just want the best man to play, just like every other position. We want the best man on the field.
All right. Keith Farmer, saw that you had a question.
Hey, Liam, I know, again, like Coach said, you'd love to be undefeated, but like this is where it kind of starts, right, for you guys with conference play. What are you seeing from the teams you guys are getting ready to do that?
I think people are really counting us out. You watch the film on these teams that we're going to be playing. I think we'll run with them. I don't see us losing this conference. I really don't.
What gives you that confidence?
I just know who we have. I mean, we've played a lot of these guys. I mean, yes, they have graduates. They got a lot of returners, but I believe in our guys more than I don't believe in theirs.
And then finally, what are you seeing, or have you started yet on West Georgia? Like, what do you know of them?
So they're a 4-2 heavy. They got a lot of smaller D linemen. They do a lot more movement. So it's gonna be something we're really gonna focus this week on practice, making sure we pick it all up so we can establish the run game and do a very strong pass one.
All right. Dick Gabriel.
And Liam, you knew it was going to be tough against the D1 teams. You guys play them every year, but how difficult is it to get your mind back in shape, to get your mind right in a week like this and put those losses behind you?
Yeah, I mean, you never go into a game expecting to lose. But at the end of the day, you got to watch it come the end of Sunday. You rewatch it, you learn from your mistakes, and then you just got to move on. And really focus on conference play. I mean, this is the most important part of our season. Like Coach said, all of our team goals are still ahead of us. Like we can still be undefeated at Roy Kidd, we can be conference champions, and we can still be national champions.
Thank you.
All right. Liam, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it. We'll now welcome in Cam Jr. onto the call. All right, Michael, if you want to start us off.
Ken, we saw what you guys were able to do against Houston Christian at home, talking about an FCS matchup. So as you guys prepare for West Georgia, what does your defense need to do to kind of have that same output and to limit their offense?
Basically, we bring out a lot of small details, putting a lot of small details in our game. We've been trying to put forward that we got to do everything right. Not everything's going to be perfect. Not everything's going to be great. They might get a play or two, but hey, next play is the best play. So doing the little details and making them little details right is going to be the biggest part of our game.
I know with the situation now we're 1-2, but your defense, man, you guys consistently seem to make big plays. You talked about the touchdowns. You had one in the first two games, and seeing what you were able to do and turning them over this past weekend as well. So talk about that and just how the defense has this big playability and to kind of, I guess, create some momentum for the offense to kind of get going eventually.
Basically, we got a lot of players that can definitely just make a lot of plays. A lot of talented players that are just have the capability to play at the next level. That want to play at the next level, and we preach ball hawks and terrorizing the quarterback. So anything that we can do to get the defense some touchdowns, get the offensive touchdowns that we just put forward. So punching the ball out, getting interceptions, making big hits on the quarterback, anything to knock their game off. Anything to knock the quarterback's game off because he's the leader of the offense. So we knock the quarterback game off, we can make a lot of big plays that's going to frustrate the whole offense and then set our offense up for a good field play.
All right, Dick Gabriel.
Yeah, the same question for you, Cam, that I asked Liam. Tell me about the challenge of putting the losses to the FBS teams behind you and now refocusing. As you said, your goals are still ahead of you, but is it difficult to look forward and not look back?
No, it's real. It's real. It's real easy to look forward. I think our team looks forward all the time because our losses, they create a lot of strong wins for us. We learn from our losses. Marshall, Louisville, those are big games for us. We had a lot of mistakes that we did ourselves. It's nothing that they did good that was just spectacular. We beat ourselves and we're starting to lock in on the little details to push forward and get the conference championship, win undefeated at Royal Kid Stadium, and hopefully get a national championship in FCS. So I feel like moving forward, it's going to be we're going to learn from the games. It's not like much of okay dwelling on the past, but just learning from the past.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, Keith Farmer.
Hey Cam, just looking at West Georgia, they look so balanced passing and running. What does that pose problem wise for a defense when it's hard to know what's coming?
Um, like I said, we played Louisville, we played Marshall, we played a lot of teams that were really good. Houston Christian, they were really good. So these teams are going to feed off of what they beat us in, the little small areas they beat us in. So the details that we're putting towards this game is stopping everything that the teams did before that the teams are going to learn now. So putting forth that effort, we played a lot of great running backs, we played a lot of great quarterbacks. Um, the running back from Louisville, he was a great runner. It's a lot of different running backs that have a lot of different abilities. So we had to prepare differently and watch a lot of film on these running backs and a lot of film on the quarterback because the quarterback from last year, the quarterback from last week in Marshalls, there was three different quarterbacks we had to focus on. The quarterback at Louisville, he had some type of ability, some couple of abilities that he had to put towards our game, and this quarterback gonna be different from all of those. So putting a lot of film time into these guys is going to be key. Our defense is a great defense, so we're not really worried about anybody. It's just about focusing on the little things, really.
Hey, Connor Sturgill.
You kind of mentioned it, going to Louisville and Marshall and learn about yourselves now. Now, conference play is getting ready to start, and you have a West Georgia team who's ranked. They're feeling pretty good about themselves, and it's a football town, like Coach said. So you're all going to be tested with this offense that's balanced. They want to run, they want to do all these things. So, how has these past couple of weeks prepared you all for this very big early road test in conference play?
So basically, from the start from Louisville all the way to now, we have realized there's a lot of guys on our team that can play. And there's everybody on this team, on this defense that can play in the game. That's going to be a big factor in our game. Working together and having much communication is going to be a big factor playing against West Georgia. West Georgia is a pretty good team. Obviously, they're ranked, but we also have three other teams that's ranked in our conference. That it's going to lead us to being in the conference championship. It's going to lead us to being in the national championship. So these guys that we have on our team is all focused on playing the next play, and the next play is the best play. But it also starts on Mondays. Starts on Sundays. It starts after the game when you on a bus ride, the long bus ride home or the long flight home. So we start thinking about games after the game's over. You know, it's always what we're gonna do at practice, how we're gonna do better at practice, what are we doing wrong. We just recently had a player-led team meeting yesterday, so it had a bunch of guys just walking up front and telling them how they feel on the team and what we need to pick up as a team and how we can come together just to win everything.
Okay. Any other questions for Cam? Not seeing any. Media members, thank you for joining us today. Cam, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it. And we will see you all on the weekend. Thank you all for joining.